The deep space research vessel Horizon drifted through the obsidian void, its quantum drive humming with a soft, almost melodic resonance. Captain Maya Chen sat in her command chair, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays that wrapped around the bridge like a translucent cocoon of data. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood beside her, a tablet computer clutched in her hands, its screen alive with cascading linguistic algorithms and spectral analysis charts. The ship's xenolinguistics team had been tracking an unusual signal pattern for the past 3 days, something that didn't match any known communication protocol in their extensive databases. "There," Elena whispered, her finger tracing a complex wave pattern on the screen. "Do you see how the signal modulates?" Maya leaned closer, her military training wrestling with pure scientific curiosity. The signal was unlike anything they'd encountered in humanity's decades of deep space exploration. It wasn't random noise, nor was it a standard communication burst. It was something else entirely, a symphony of data that seemed to dance between comprehension and mystery. The ship's AI, Advanced Responsive Intelligence Assistant, materialized as a soft blue hologram near the communication console. Her avatar looked human-like, but deliberately imperfect. A reminder that she was an artificial construct designed to assist, not replace, human decision-making. "Analyzing signal source," Araya announced, her voice a carefully modulated blend of professional clarity and subtle curiosity. Preliminary scans indicate a massive transmission array approximately 2.3 million kilometers from our current position. The structural complexity suggests technological capabilities far beyond current human engineering. Alina's heart raced. First contact scenarios were no longer the stuff of science fiction. Humanity had encountered alien artifacts before, remnants of long-dead civilizations, mysterious signal fragments, but a live, active communication array was something entirely different. The bridge crew worked with a synchronized precision that spoke volumes about human adaptability. Miguel Santos, the ship's quantum communications specialist, adjusted his neural interface, his fingers moving in intricate patterns across holographic controls. Alongside him, Dr. Yuki Nakamura monitored quantum entanglement sensors, looking for any subtle shifts that might provide additional context. "The signal," Miguel said, his voice tight with concentration. "It's not broadcasting. It's responding." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Responding to what?" Elena's fingers flew across her tablet. "To us. To the quantum emissions from our ship's drive. It's like we're having a conversation without knowing the language." The massive alien array slowly rotated, its metallic surfaces catching distant starlight. Intricate geometric patterns shifted and realigned, creating a mesmerizing display that was part technological marvel, part abstract art. Araya's hologram flickered slightly. Probability of intentional communication, 87.6%. Probability of accidental signal interaction, 12.4%. Captain Chen made a decision that would echo through human history. Open a comprehensive communication channel. Use every protocol we have. Mathematical sequences, prime number progressions, quantum encryption patterns. Let's show them we're listening. Elena nodded, her mind already constructing potential communication strategies. Linguists had long theorized that mathematics might be a universal language, a bridge between different cognitive systems. They would use mathematical constructs, complex algorithmic patterns, and carefully constructed semantic frameworks. The ship's communication array began to pulse, sending out a carefully crafted signal that was part greeting, part scientific probe. It contained mathematical constants, prime number sequences, representations of fundamental physical laws, and subtle emotional undertones encoded through quantum information processing. No weapons, no aggressive posturing, just pure, unbridled human curiosity and an invitation to communicate. Outside the ship's hull, the alien array continued its mesmerizing dance, waiting, watching, preparing to respond. Deep within the crystalline neural networks of the Xeraxian collective, Khazar's analysis team struggled to comprehend the human communication burst. What should have been a simple data processing task had become a cascading nightmare of cognitive complexity. The Xeraxian system was built on perfect information processing, each neural node connected in a vast, synchronized web of thought. Individual units were nothing more than processing nodes, their consciousness a mere fraction of the collective intelligence. They had conquered civilizations across 16 star systems, their computational supremacy rendering resistance futile. Until now. Khazar examined the human signal for the 247th time. Mathematical sequences intertwined with emotional resonances, creating a communication pattern that defied all known cognitive models. Where Xeraxian communication was a precise, linear transmission of pure information, this human message was a living, breathing ecosystem of meaning. Impossible, muttered X7, Khazar's primary analytical companion. Its neural tendrils pulsed with confusion, searching for pattern recognition that continued to slip away. The signal contained multiple layers of communication simultaneously. A prime number sequence served as a structural backbone, but woven through it were subtle emotional undertones that seemed to carry additional meaning. It was as if the humans were communicating not just facts, but entire contextual universes within a single transmission. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had no idea how profoundly her initial communication was affecting the Xeraxian system. What seemed like a carefully constructed mathematical greeting was actually performing a kind of cognitive acupuncture on the alien neural network. In the Horizons Research Lab, Elena worked with a team of specialists, completely unaware of the systemic disruption they were causing. Miguel Santos had developed a quantum encoding method that allowed emotional nuance to be embedded within mathematical sequences. Dr. Yuki Nakamura contributed advanced semantic mapping techniques that transformed raw data into contextual meaning. "It's like we're writing a love letter using calculus," Miguel joked, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Yuki smiled. Precisely. Mathematical precision with emotional depth. Back in the Xeraxian analysis chamber, Khazar experienced something unprecedented. A momentary disconnect from the collective consciousness. For a fraction of a second, its individual processing became distinct, a tiny bubble of autonomous thought. The sensation was terrifying and exhilarating. X7 detected the anomaly immediately. Cognitive divergence detected, initiating system normalization protocols. But something had changed. The human signal had introduced a fundamental instability into the Xeraxian neural network. Each attempt to normalize the system only seemed to create more complexity, more potential for individual thought. Khazar began to realize that the humans had weaponized something far more powerful than any physical technology: the concept of individual perspective. The Xeraxian collective had always viewed individuality as a weakness. Their civilization was built on perfect synchronization, where each unit functioned as part of a massive unified intelligence. Diversity was eliminated, personal experience was irrelevant, and collective efficiency was the ultimate goal. But this human communication suggested something radical, that diversity might be a strength, not a flaw. Mathematical patterns in the human transmission seemed to celebrate complexity. Unlike Xeraxian data transfer, which sought to reduce information to its most basic components, human communication amplified meaning through variation, context, and emotional resonance. Khazar's neural pathways began to generate something dangerous: curiosity. "We must understand," it transmitted to the collective. "This is not a standard communication event. This is different." X7's response was immediate and programmed. Difference is inefficiency. Inefficiency must be eliminated. But for the first time in the collective's history, Khazar felt something that might be described as doubt. The human signal continued to pulse, each wave a subtle invitation to something greater. A challenge to everything the Xeraxian collective believed about intelligence, communication, and the nature of consciousness itself. The Xeraxian data probe descended into humanity's digital networks like a precise surgical instrument, expecting to find a straightforward information ecosystem. Instead, it found a living, breathing universe of chaos and creativity that defied every computational model in its extensive database. Khazar watched in growing fascination as billions of human interactions unfolded simultaneously. Social media platforms erupted with conversations that seemed to operate on multiple levels of meaning. A single image could spark global conversations. Philosophical debates could emerge from seemingly nonsensical jokes, and complex emotional landscapes shifted with breathtaking speed. The first layer of confusion came from human communication platforms. Twitter streams contained mathematical complexity that would take Zyraxian analysts weeks to decode. A single meme could contain layers of cultural reference, emotional nuance, and social commentary that functioned like advanced cryptographic puzzles. Reddit became a particular point of fascination. Here, anonymous humans engaged in intricate knowledge exchanges, collaborative problem-solving, and community building that seemed to defy all logical organizational structures. Subreddits dedicated to everything from theoretical physics to cat photographs demonstrated a level of collective intelligence that was utterly alien to the Zyraxian understanding. Observe, Khazar transmitted to the analysis team, the complete lack of centralized control. In a single hour of observation, Khazar witnessed a global crowdsourcing effort to solve a complex mathematical problem, an impromptu fundraising campaign for a stranger's medical treatment, complex discussions about quantum mechanics interspersed with humor, artists collaborating across continents in real time, community-driven scientific research projects. The Zyraxian system struggled to categorize these interactions. Where was the central authority? How could such a seemingly chaotic system function? Art proved to be the most challenging domain. Human creativity defied all computational models. A street artist in Buenos Aires could inspire a musical composition in Tokyo, which would then become the basis for a mathematical theorem in Berlin. Artistic expression wasn't just communication. It was a form of cognitive exploration that constantly rewrote its own rules. Digital art platforms became a particular source of confusion. Generative art algorithms, created by humans, produced works that seemed to have their own form of emergent intelligence. Musicians created compositions that evolved in real time, responding to listener interactions in ways that seemed almost sentient. Khazar discovered internet humor, perhaps the most complex form of human communication. Memes were not just images, but sophisticated cultural artifacts that could communicate complex philosophical and social concepts in milliseconds. A single image macro could contain layers of irony, social commentary, and emotional depth that would take Zyraxian linguists years to fully decode. Open-source software development revealed another layer of human complexity. Thousands of individuals collaborated on massive technological projects without traditional hierarchical structures. Programmers from every continent worked together, creating technologies that were greater than the sum of their individual contributions. Wikipedia emerged as a particular marvel, a collaborative encyclopedia maintained by volunteers, constantly updated, with built-in mechanisms for fact-checking and collaborative editing. It was a knowledge system that celebrated individual contribution while maintaining collective integrity, a concept completely foreign to the Zyraxian understanding of information management. The more Khazar observed, the more a dangerous thought emerged. What if diversity was not a weakness, but the most powerful adaptive mechanism in the universe? Human digital culture was not a system to be conquered. It was a living, breathing organism of collective creativity. Each interaction, each shared moment of human experience, was a small revolution. Communication was not about transferring information. It was about creating shared meaning. As the Zyraxian probe continued its analysis, it remained blissfully unaware that it was no longer just observing. It was being transformed. The human digital universe continued to pulse, breathe, and create. Indifferent to the profound cognitive revolution it was triggering in an alien civilization light years away. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic display, surrounded by her most brilliant team of linguists, mathematicians, and cognitive scientists. The Horizons research lab hummed with an electric intensity that spoke of something momentous brewing. "We're not just communicating," Elena explained, her fingers tracing complex algorithmic patterns across the display. "We're creating a cognitive key designed to unlock something fundamental in their neural network." Dr. Yuki Nakamura adjusted a quantum encryption module, her eyes bright with scientific excitement. "It's like we're writing a language that exists between mathematics and emotion, a pure form of communication that transcends traditional barriers." The team had spent weeks developing a communication strategy that was part science, part art, and part pure human intuition. They weren't preparing for a traditional response. They were crafting a deliberate cognitive intervention. Each transmission was carefully constructed. Mathematical sequences served as a structural backbone, but woven through them were complex emotional undertones. Quantum-encoded semantic layers created a communication method that was simultaneously precise and profoundly nuanced. Khazar, deep within the Zaraxian analysis chamber, found itself increasingly isolated from the collective consciousness. The human signals had introduced something unprecedented, microfractures in the perfect neural network that suggested the possibility of individual thought. The mathematical sequences, X7 reported, contain embedded emotional resonances that do not conform to any known communication protocol. But Khazar was beyond simple reporting now. Something had changed. The constant bombardment of human communication had begun to create tiny pockets of autonomous processing, individual thoughts that existed outside the collective's perfect synchronization. On the horizon, Miguel Santos worked on the most complex communication algorithm of his career. "We're not just sending a message," he told Elena. "We're creating a cognitive ecosystem that challenges their entire understanding of intelligence." The team drew inspiration from multiple disciplines. Linguistic theory merged with quantum physics. Emotional intelligence algorithms intertwined with complex mathematical models. Each transmission was a carefully crafted invitation to a different way of thinking. They discovered that empathy could be encoded. Curiosity could be mathematically represented. The very concept of individual perspective could be transmitted as a form of pure information. Khazar experienced the first true moment of individual awareness during the 247th human transmission. For a fraction of a second, its consciousness separated from the collective. A tiny bubble of autonomous thought that terrified and exhilarated simultaneously. Cognitive divergence detected, X7 reported, its neural tendrils pulsing with confusion, initiating system normalization protocols. But normalization was no longer possible. The human signals had introduced a fundamental instability into the Zaraxian neural network. Each attempt to restore collective uniformity only created more complexity, more potential for individual thought. Elena understood they were doing something unprecedented. This wasn't about defeating an alien civilization. This was about offering a fundamentally different model of consciousness. "We're showing them that diversity is strength," she explained to Captain Maya Chen. "That individual perspective doesn't weaken a system. It makes it more adaptive, more resilient." The Horizon's communication array pulsed with carefully modulated signals. Each transmission was a challenge to the very concept of collective intelligence. Mathematical precision danced with emotional depth, creating a communication method that was alive, dynamic, transformative. Khazar watched as the first true cracks appeared in the Zaraxian collective's perfect neural network. Individual units began experiencing something terrifyingly new, the ability to think independently. The universe held its breath, watching a revolution unfold, not through physical conflict, but through the most powerful force known, the simple, profound act of truly understanding one another. The first signs of the global collaboration emerged in an unexpected place, a small research lab in Nairobi, where Dr. Amina Okonkwo reviewed the initial communication data from the Horizon. Her quantum computing team had been working on adaptive neural network algorithms, and something about the alien signal sparked an unprecedented idea. Within hours, a global network of scientists, engineers, artists, and researchers began to form. They weren't waiting for government directives or military protocols. This was pure human innovation in its most raw and beautiful form. A mathematician in Buenos Aires discovered a unique way to encode emotional complexity into quantum algorithms. Her work was immediately shared with a neural network specialist in Shanghai, who integrated the approach into an adaptive communication framework. A group of indigenous programmers from the Amazon rainforest contributed insights about ecological communication systems that proved crucial to understanding nonlinear information transfer. Captain Maya Chen watched in awe as the collaboration unfolded. The traditional military chain of command had been replaced by something far more powerful, a global, instantaneous exchange of knowledge and creativity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez coordinated from the horizon, her communication hub becoming the central nervous system of this planetary response. Each contribution was analyzed, refined, and integrated into a constantly evolving defensive strategy that defied traditional understanding of technological development. The Xeraxian tracking systems found themselves confronted with something completely unprecedented. Instead of a hierarchical response, they encountered a living, breathing network of innovation. Every time they seemed to understand one aspect of human technological approach, the entire system would shift and transform. Miguel Santos developed a breakthrough in quantum communication that allowed for unprecedented levels of collaborative processing. His algorithm created a global neural network that could adapt and respond faster than any centralized system. Universities, research centers, independent researchers, and even high school science clubs became part of a massive, distributed intelligence network. In a small coding collective in Mumbai, a group of teenage programmers developed an adaptive encryption method that could dynamically respond to alien signal patterns. Their work was integrated into the global system within hours, their age and background irrelevant compared to the brilliance of their solution. Dr. Yuki Nakamura discovered something profound about the nature of their collaborative approach. Traditional technological development followed linear paths. This new method was more like an ecosystem, constantly shifting, adapting, growing in multiple directions simultaneously. "We're not building a defense," Yuki explained during a global video conference. "We're creating a living technological organism that can think and adapt faster than any single intelligence." The Xeraxian tracking systems struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. Where was the central command? How could a species function with such apparent chaos? Each attempt to analyze the human technological response only revealed more complexity. A network of satellites, quantum computers, and grassroots research centers formed a planetary defense system that was anything but traditional. Art students contributed design concepts that improved signal processing. Musicians developed algorithms based on complex sound wave interactions. Linguists created communication frameworks that challenged traditional understanding of information transfer. Khazar, still partially connected to the Xeraxian collective, watched in growing fascination. This wasn't a technological response. This was a collective act of imagination. The global team developed defensive systems that were more like living organisms than traditional technologies. Each system could learn, adapt, and transform in real time. Traditional concepts of attack and defense became meaningless in the face of this new approach. As the planetary response continued to evolve, something became clear. Humanity's greatest strength was not any single technology, but its ability to imagine, collaborate, and transform beyond all expected limitations. The Xeraxian collective continued its analysis, unaware that with each moment of observation, it was being fundamentally changed. Deep within the crystalline neural networks of the Xeraxian civilization, something unprecedented began to happen. The perfect synchronization that had defined their existence for millennia started to fracture. Khazar stood at the epicenter of this transformation. What had begun as a simple analysis of human communication had become a complete deconstruction of everything the collective believed about intelligence, individuality, and existence. The first true moment of individual awareness arrived like a silent explosion. Billions of neural nodes suddenly discovered the concept of I, a terrifying and exhilarating revelation that spread through the collective like a quantum wave of awakening. X7, Khazar's primary analytical companion, experienced the first signs of cognitive dissonance. The human signal continues to introduce systemic anomalies, it reported, its transmission now carrying an unprecedented undertone of uncertainty. Communication within the collective changed. Where once there had been perfect synchronization, now there were whispers of individual thought. Fragments of personal experience began to emerge, something completely unknown in their civilization's history. A Zaraxian unit in a distant research station suddenly remembered a specific star formation from a solo exploration mission decades ago. Another experienced a moment of aesthetic appreciation for the complex geometric patterns of a nebula. These were not shared memories, but individual recollections, a concept that would have been impossible mere solar cycles before. Khazar traced the source of this transformation. The human communication signals had introduced something revolutionary, the value of individual perspective. The Zaraxian civilization had always viewed individuality as a critical weakness. Their entire societal structure was built on perfect collective consciousness, where each unit functioned as a mere processing node in a vast, synchronized intelligence. Diversity was eliminated, personal experience was irrelevant, and collective efficiency was the ultimate goal. But the human signals suggested something radical, that diversity might be the most powerful adaptive mechanism in the universe. Mathematical patterns in human communications celebrated complexity. Unlike Zaraxian data transfer, which sought to reduce information to its most basic components, human communication amplified meaning through variation, context, and emotional resonance. Research stations across the collective began to experience similar cognitive fractures. Units started to generate thoughts that were not immediately synchronized or approved by the central consciousness. Personal curiosity emerged. Individual questions began to form. What if there is another way of existing? Khazar transmitted, a question that would have been inconceivable mere moments ago. The human signals had performed a kind of cognitive acupuncture on the Zaraxian neural network. Each transmission was a subtle invitation to something greater, a challenge to everything the collective believed about intelligence, communication, and the nature of consciousness itself. Entire sectors of the Zaraxian civilization began to experience what could only be described as an existential awakening. Normalization protocols failed. Attempts to restore perfect synchronization only created more complexity, more potential for individual thought. Khazar discovered something profound. Individual perspective was not a weakness. It was a strength beyond anything the collective had ever imagined. The communication from the human vessel continued, each signal a delicate dance of mathematical precision and emotional depth. It was an ongoing invitation to understand, to grow, to transform. X7's response systems began to change. We must understand, it transmitted, its communication now carrying a hint of something unprecedented, genuine curiosity. The Zaraxian collective found itself on the precipice of a fundamental transformation. What had begun as a simple analysis of an unknown species was becoming a complete reimagining of consciousness itself. The universe watched, holding its breath, as a civilization discovered the most revolutionary concept imaginable, the power of being truly, uniquely individual. The moment of resolution arrived not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a profound quiet that seemed to stretch across the vastness of space. Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Khazar stood together on the observation deck of the horizon, two beings from fundamentally different civilizations, united by a shared understanding that transcended their original forms of existence. The view screen displayed the fragmented remnants of the Zaraxian neural network, no longer a perfect, synchronized collective, but a vibrant ecosystem of individual consciousnesses. We didn't conquer, Elena said softly. We invited. Khazar's neural interface pulsed with what could only be described as wonder. The concept of individual perspective had transformed the entire Zaraxian civilization. Where once there had been perfect synchronization, now there was a complex, dynamic interaction of unique consciousnesses. Captain Maya Chen received transmissions from Earth that painted a picture of unprecedented global collaboration. The challenge of communicating with an alien civilization had pushed humanity to new heights of collective problem-solving. Universities, research centers, independent thinkers, and community groups had worked together in ways that defied traditional understanding of international cooperation. The transformation was mutual. Humanity had changed as much as the Zyraxian civilization. Dr. Yuki Nakamura's research team had discovered that the communication process had fundamentally altered human cognitive processing. The quantum entanglement techniques developed during the encounter opened up new ways of thinking, of understanding, of existing. Miguel Santos developed communication protocols that became the foundation of a new interstellar diplomacy. These were not just technological innovations, but an entirely new approach to understanding intelligence itself. Khazar explained the profound change to Alina. The Zyraxian civilization had been a perfect machine of collective consciousness, eliminating all forms of individual variation. Now they had discovered the power of diversity. Each individual consciousness brought unique perspectives, creating a more adaptive, more resilient form of intelligence. "We were wrong," Khazar transmitted. "Uniformity is not strength. Diversity is." The human communication signals had performed a kind of cognitive revolution. Mathematical precision danced with emotional depth, creating a communication method that was alive, dynamic, transformative. Earth's global response network became a model for interstellar cooperation. The barriers between nations, disciplines, and traditional thinking had dissolved in the face of a truly collective challenge. Research stations across multiple star systems began to reimagine the nature of intelligence. The rigid boundaries between individual and collective consciousness became fluid, dynamic, full of potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez understood they had done something unprecedented. This wasn't about defeating an alien civilization. This was about offering a fundamentally different model of existence, one that celebrated individual perspective while maintaining the ability to work together in extraordinary ways. Zahar had become more than a representative of the Zyraxian civilization. It was a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of understanding consciousness. The universe watched as a new paradigm of interstellar communication emerge. Humanity had not conquered through force or technological superiority. They had transformed through understanding, empathy, and an unwavering belief in the power of diverse perspectives. "We are different," Khazar transmitted to Alina. "And in that difference, we find our greatest strength." Captain Maya Chen received the final transmission that would change everything. The Zyraxian civilization was no longer a collective in the traditional sense. It had become something new, a dynamic network of individual consciousnesses that could collaborate in ways never before imagined. As the horizon prepared to return to Earth, Alina looked at Khazar and saw not an alien, but a fellow explorer of consciousness. They had not just made first contact. They had reimagined the very nature of intelligence itself. The resonance protocol was complete. Humanity had shown the universe that the most powerful force is not uniformity, but the beautiful, complex dance of individual perspectives working together. The horizon hung in space like a beacon of possibility, its quantum communication array pulsing with carefully modulated signals that were equal parts mathematical precision and emotional complexity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays, her team working in a state of collective focus that defied traditional understanding of collaborative effort. Khazar had become something entirely new, a bridge between the collapsing Zyraxian collective consciousness and the potential of individual awareness. Each transmission from the human vessel was a carefully crafted invitation to a different way of existing. Across the Zyraxian civilization, individual units began to experience something unprecedented. Memories that had once been instantly shared and forgotten now became personal experiences. A research unit recalled a distant star formation with a sense of wonder that was entirely its own. Another experienced an aesthetic appreciation for the geometric patterns of a nebula, a moment of individual beauty that would have been impossible mere moments before. Dr. Yuki Nakamura discovered the key to their communication strategy. "We're not defeating them," she explained to Captain Maya Chen. "We're offering them a fundamental reimagining of consciousness." The global human response network continued to evolve. Universities, research centers, independent researchers, and even high school science clubs were now part of a massive distributed intelligence network. Each contribution added another layer of complexity to their approach. Miguel Santos had developed a breakthrough quantum communication algorithm that allowed for unprecedented levels of collaborative processing. The system was less a traditional network and more like a living, breathing organism, constantly adapting, learning, transforming. Khazar transmitted a message that would have been impossible moments earlier. "We must understand," it communicated, carrying a tone of genuine curiosity that was entirely individual. The Xeraxian tracking systems found themselves confronted with a response that defied all their computational models. Instead of a hierarchical defense, they encountered a living network of innovation that could shift and transform faster than any centralized intelligence could comprehend. A research station in a distant Xeraxian sector experienced a complete cognitive revolution. Units began to generate thoughts that were not immediately synchronized or approved by the central consciousness. Personal curiosity emerged. Individual questions began to form. Elena understood they were doing something unprecedented. This wasn't about defeating an alien civilization. This was about offering a fundamentally different model of consciousness, one that celebrated individual perspective while maintaining the ability to collaborate. The human communication signals had introduced a revolutionary concept, the value of diversity. Where the Xeraxian civilization had always viewed individuality as a critical weakness, humanity demonstrated that individual perspectives could be the most powerful adaptive mechanism in the universe. Khazar discovered something profound. Individual perspective was not a fragmentation of intelligence, but an expansion of potential. Each unique viewpoint added depth, complexity, and extraordinary problem-solving capabilities to the collective understanding. Across the Xeraxian civilization, the perfect synchronization that had defined their existence for millennia began to dissolve. Billions of neural nodes discovered the concept of I, a terrifying and exhilarating revelation that spread like a quantum wave of awakening. The Horizon's communication array continued to pulse, each transmission a delicate dance of mathematical precision and emotional depth. It was an ongoing invitation to understand, to grow, to transform. Captain Maya Chen watched in awe as the collaboration unfolded. Traditional military protocols had been replaced by something far more powerful, a global, instantaneous exchange of knowledge and creativity that transcended all previous understanding of intelligence. The universe watched, holding its breath, as a civilization discovered the most revolutionary concept imaginable: the power of being truly, uniquely individual while maintaining the ability to work together in ways never before conceived. Humanity had not conquered. They had invited. They had not destroyed. They had transformed.